Hi, everyone. I'm Giulio Coraggio, technology partner at DLA Piper, and this is the podcast Digital. Today, I'm delighted to be here with Mike Sutcliff, former group CEO at Accenture Digital. Welcome, Mike, and thank you for accepting our invitation.
I'm very happy to be here. Thanks for asking me.
So, Mike, we usually start these podcasts with a bit of background on the career of our guests. You had an amazing career at Accenture, and now we were just chatting about your new life that seems to be really engaging. So you really never stand still. So can you give us a bit of information about the milestones of your past career, of your 32 years at Accenture? What do you think that were the milestones of your past years that maybe were the milestones of the digital transformation in the industry over the time?
Well, I think it's a great question. I mean, I kind of think about my career in stages. I spent the first 5 years kind of learning to do the work and to lead the teams. I was both an electrical and computer engineer, and I had an MBA and a CPA. So I enjoyed both the technology and the business. And so I was learning how to build technology. Then after that, I had to learn how to build a practice. And so we launched a business called Finance and Performance Management, which started in the Atlanta office and eventually became a big global part of our business. And so as part of that, I had to learn to lead an international business. And so I moved to London. I did work across all of Europe, eventually got to go into Asia Pacific, worked in lots of different geographies around the world. And so that was great. I built a large international business. And by the time we went to our IPO, that was a couple $1 billion worth of revenue to Accenture. So it was a big global piece of our practice. From there, they asked me to start learning again from scratch. And so I handed over that multi-billion-dollar business and started with just me and my secretary. And our job was to launch new adjacent businesses for Accenture. So I had to start thinking about where the world was going to change and how technology was going to enable the change. And so we started building what we now call Accenture Digital back in the years 2004, 2005, 2006, as we were getting into.
You built Accenture Digital literally from scratch.
Absolutely, yes, we did. So we decided, to look at how mobile technology was going to change, how data analytics and artificial intelligence was going to come to life, how products were going to get connected. So all the physical products would become connected products. And we started to understand, how all that was going to come together to create better interactions. So really, that was the foundation of Accenture Digital.
Do you think that there were some milestones of the digital transformation during these last 20 years that were crucial in reaching the stage where we are now? Do you think that there were some types of technologies that were enablers of this situation where we are now?
Yeah, I think about it in kind of 6 or 7 stages of technology, which are combining to allow us to do what we do today. I mean, the first step was really the emergence of these hyperscale platforms that offered us low cost and variable cost compute, storage, and data. And that made it much cheaper to innovate and to try new business models with very little capital outlay. So that's when we saw the emergence of mesh networks and narrowband IoT and 3G and 4G and now 5G that brings connectivity to more of the world's population. That opened the boundary of what we can do. The second step is we started to see customer interactions with a combination of smartphones, mobile tablets, embedded display screens, mobile data programs, redesigned user interfaces. And then really interestingly, we saw the emergence of two-sided marketplaces and platforms, which enabled the whole platform economy. And then at the same time, we were seeing gaming engines come to life, and that redefined kind of the expectations users had about what the experience might look like, might feel like. That allowed us to then move into e-commerce, which was pretty cool because we saw changes in terms of the payments networks, the product configurations, user feedback loops, and that allowed product designers to think differently about how they design and bring new products to market. And then really interestingly, we saw this explosion around data with big data, IoT, artificial intelligence technologies, opening up our ability to sense, to compute, to respond at speed and on a massive scale with both distributed compute and cloud-based architectures. And then finally, the last thing that we're seeing is the introduction of these connected physical products with onboard memory and communications and compute capabilities that leverage other devices to help create the user interface and the interaction. And that allows us to start adding value-added services to the physical products, like your autonomous vehicles, things like that. So where I see us today is the combination of all of those technologies, allowing us to really think hard about what product or service do we want to deliver, and how do we combine all those technologies to do it differently than it would have been done in the past. I think we're going to see over the next 5 years an explosion in innovation as people realize that there are lots of different things they can do today that they couldn't have done even 2 to 3 years ago.
Do you think the shift is in having better technologies, or in having a cheaper and more accessible technology that can be afforded by any business, or maybe the combination of the two?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of the two. I mean, the reason we're getting cheaper technology is because we're getting better technology, right? And so the cost curve continues to decline as we get cheaper and cheaper technology, and we introduce business models that allow us to take advantage of platform economy effects, or the circular economy, or the sharing economy. It allows us to then fund an expansion of the technology into populations that historically might not have been able to afford it. And so there's a yin and a yang to creating better technology and creating lower cost technology, and then getting that technology distributed across a population that might not have had it.
Absolutely. You said that you expect a boom into innovation in the next 5 years, but at the moment we are in, unfortunately, a situation of financial downturn. The big question for CEOs at the moment is to wait and see what happens next, how the world will change after COVID, or to invest now, because otherwise they might be out of their market, because if they don't innovate at the moment now, they might be left behind by their competitors. What do you think that business leaders should do at the moment? Should they invest? Should they see? I don't know. It's really a tricky question, because also the financial situation doesn't help to take a wise decision, and maybe you cannot afford to take the wrong decision.
That's a great question. Unfortunately, the challenge we all live with is that change occurs every day, whether we're ready for it or not. And it's going to continue to accelerate. The pace of change will continue to accelerate. And every once in a while, we'll have a black swan event like the pandemic, which causes us to rethink a lot of the assumptions we've had about how we operate, how much we can afford to invest, and where there is a smart investment or not. I would focus on three things. The first question I would be asking is, how is the value proposition to your customer changing because other digital technologies have entered your market? And as those customer expectations and the commercial models around them shift, that can radically impact your profitability. So do you understand what's happening in your market, even if you're not the one instigating the change? The second question I would ask is, how can you improve the customer experience with a better user-based design and better collaboration with your ecosystem partners? So maybe if you don't have the money to invest, you can partner with somebody that's got complementary capabilities, but go to market in a way that's better for your end customers. And also, it's not expensive now to streamline some of your internal commercial models and business models that reduce the friction in your transaction processing. So I would do that. And then the last thing I would do is I would really think about whether you could create new products or service that leverage the digital technologies and partner with others in the ecosystem that would reset both your price points and the quality at which you can bring your products and services into the market. So I think as a leader, if you're thinking through those sets of questions, that those three questions will allow you to look at the market through a different lens and then potentially come up with new solutions that don't always require a massive capital outlay or an increase in spending. You might be able to reduce the friction in your current operating model, save money, and then reinvest that money by partnering with somebody in the ecosystem to do something that's really dramatic for your customer, but not necessarily a big drain on your income statement.
But do you think that this situation of financial difficulty would lead businesses to be more creative? Because when your business is going well, you can afford to do the wrong step. But when the market's not going so well, you need to reinvent your business. You understand that you need to do something more to avoid losing what you already have and to turn out new solutions to keep your market position or even improve it.
Well, definitely. I think having financial pressure on your business requires that you rethink what you're doing and you become innovative. But even if things are going well, what's happening in the digital world is that disruption sometimes comes into a market very quickly. So even the businesses that are doing well in that market can be disrupted. I think most leadership teams who've looked at what digital has done over the past decade have realized that the business models will change as each new generation of technology allows them to leapfrog in terms of product design or service design and the experiences that are offered to their clients. But at the same time, what's happening is the expectation of the individual customers continue to escalate, right? Because they have good experiences with other markets and other parts of their life. And they bring that and they say, why can't it work the same way? So why can't my healthcare experience or my government interaction experience feel more like an entertainment experience or a gaming experience? And so customer expectations are going to drive a lot of innovation, even if you're in good financial shape. But if you're not in good financial shape, you're going to have to go a lot faster.
Absolutely. In your new life after Accenture, you are an investor in many companies. You are a CEO. You're having a CEO role in several new businesses. Can you tell us a bit more about your new life? We were having a chat before recording this podcast, and you popped out so many different businesses where you're working on at the moment. Just give us a snapshot of what you're doing now.
Well, I was very blessed in my very long career with Accenture. I was there for 34 years. And so I got to do a lot of different things. And now that I'm retired from Accenture, I'm learning, right? So I'm working with a private equity company and helping them think about their thesis for different markets and help them do some specific transactions. So that's a lot of fun. And I'm learning a lot from looking at the world through the lens of a private equity firm. I'm also doing some CEO advisory consulting work with some privately held companies that are scaling rapidly. And I enjoy working on kind of fast growth opportunities. So that's really interesting because I'm seeing the eyes through the world of these privately held or private equity backed companies that are in the rapid growth mode. And then finally, I'm working with 3 startups, and the startups are in 3 different areas. One's in healthcare, one's in sports content, and one is in augmented reality. And all 3 of those companies are doing foundational technology work where they're actually inventing new hardware and new software. And so I enjoy that a lot. I like stitching together different parts of technology and doing something we haven't seen before. And the last one is in stealth mode, but I find it so interesting, I decided to actually become CEO. And I'm very excited about where that company is going to go, because I think we're going to create an entire new layer of technology that will hopefully bring lots of improvements to people's desktops, their mobile devices, etc.
Absolutely. But what is the type of technology on which you would bet for the next 3 to 5 years? I mean, we hear a lot about blockchain, AI, IoT. and so many buzzwords. But is there a single technology on which you think our world is going to change? Companies, the big tech companies, will bet the most in the coming years?
Well, I think what you divide that question into two pieces. There are foundational technologies like artificial intelligence, which is a pervasive horizontal set of capabilities that can work in lots of places, or blockchain, which fits the same mode. And those foundational technologies have plenty of room to grow. What I'm going to be looking at are specific applications that I think will drive substantial changes in how markets perform. So the first big one that I'm looking at is around connected health solutions that enable home care, virtual care, and self-care. Because I think we've realized every country in the world, their number one consumption of GDP outside of defense is healthcare. And in almost every country in the world, they've run out of money for healthcare. So they'd like to provide more healthcare to more people. They just can't do it. So how can we move the needle in reducing the cost of healthcare so we get more healthcare to more people at lower cost? I think connected health solutions are just reaching that critical mass of being able to break through the regulatory barriers and the historical reasons why we didn't implement some things that could have been implemented. And I think the pandemic is massively accelerating the pressure to do that. So if I were an investor right now, I'd be looking at connected health and saying, there's no doubt that market is going to continue to disrupt and in fact will accelerate. And it will be good for everybody involved, the governments, the patients, the providers, et cetera. So that's where I would probably focus my energy.
Do you think that the pandemic created a cultural shift that would make telemedicine, connected healthcare more accessible from the perspective of healthcare providers and from the perspective of patients that maybe 2 years ago would prefer to see their doctor through his eyes. By now, they got used to a remote relationship.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we've all learned through the pandemic is that we can remove some of the constraints of space and time. It doesn't mean in all situations we can do it virtually, but there are certainly many, many situations where we can connect virtually, we can use remote sensors, we can do things that provide good healthcare without requiring the patient to get up and go to a different physical location. In the past, we wouldn't have had the number of interactions to test and learn around. And so the regulators would have been more cautious in allowing us to move forward. The pandemic forced us into a situation where a lot of those interactions occurred, and we had the opportunity to learn more about what works and what doesn't, and to kind of paint a broader brush around what's going to be acceptable from a regulatory perspective. And then we also saw patients changing their mind about what they thought was acceptable. So my guess is we'll see even more of this in the future, not necessarily because it's cost efficient, although it is, but more because it's better for many of the patients in terms of getting more care to more people on a faster timeline. And in many cases, that's what's most important.
Do you think that 5G will have a pivotal role in this innovation, in terms that obviously with 5G, you can have better services remotely?
Yes, I think 5G is going to matter for two reasons. One is many of the interactions we want in a health environment, we actually need high resolution graphics where the doctors can see the color of your skin, your eyes, blood vessels, things like that. With 5G, we've got the bandwidth to move video at high quality very easily. The second thing is we want low-cost embedded sensors in the environment that are fairly ubiquitous. And Cherish Health, the first startup that I'm working with, has actually created a new piece of hardware, which is an ambient sensor that would not have been possible without 5G. The work that we're doing with Headvantage Fan Experience around sports content includes a player safety angle, where we're monitoring player safety during the athletic event. Would not have been possible without 5G. So whether it's a home-based or a field-based interaction, 5G does enable us to do it with a level of quality that just wasn't possible in the past.
Yeah, so So there is a cultural shift, technology is better. And so all the combination of these elements are creating a better situation for the growth of connected healthcare. Mike, it was a very interesting chat. You are a resource of an enormous amount of knowledge about the digital world. I thank you so much for your time, and let's speak soon.